Hey clients, welcome back to The Couch and the Culture, where therapy meets what's trending. I am your host, Kia. We will get right into things today. Typically I start these videos off with the disclaimers. I'm just going to put those disclaimers in the description box below, but just to give a quick overview, the views that I share and will be speaking on are only of mine. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone else during these videos. Also, during these videos, I may speak about people that I have seen edited footage of. I do not know them personally, so keep that in mind when we're doing the kind of analysis or discussion around those things and people. Also, these videos are meant to be educational only to help you guys learn more about mental health things in a more relaxed way. It's not intended to be a substitute for your own individual therapy. If I am substituting words out in a less clinical manner, it's because I'm trying to avoid being flagged. So I want us to get right into things today. It's the last video of 2025. I don't want to waste too much time. I won't belabor the point or stand before you long. If you grew up in a church when somebody says that, typically they ain't telling the truth. You know they lying. But I'm trying to keep my word today and make this video brief. So getting into the first topic today, the who said that, there was a thread that I came across that I wanted to bring our attention to. And the thread said this: the mean girl to social worker therapist pipeline should be studied too. This is one that I want to handle with caution and delicacy, because I realize that there are a lot of people who have not had great experiences when it comes to working with social workers in therapy. If you were present for my second video, why Black people don't go to therapy, which I would encourage you to go back and watch if you haven't yet, one of them we mentioned was kind of the history of social workers and therapists, which I may put a clip back in from that video as well to refresh our memory. We don't always have the best track record for building trust. When I saw that, it really kind of made me a little bit sad for a moment, thinking about the number of people who have gone into seeking help with a pure heart, only to find out that the person that was providing care to them behaved in a mean girl type of way. And that don't sit right with me. I think you can be a therapist or a social worker and you can be direct, you can be to the point, but I feel like you should advise your clients that that's your style. Like, when people come and see me, I let them know. I tell them all the time, I think of myself as a gentle nudger. I'm gonna let you know when there's something that I think we need to examine deeper, and I'm gonna do it in a very direct way, but it's ultimately meant to be in a way that's still handled with care and delicate and gentle. So when I see that people are, finding that their therapists are bullies, or, oh, she read me to filth, and you know what, my therapist really talked down to me, and that's the type of therapist I need. Maybe some of you are looking for that in a provider, but that's not my approach. And I hope that you're very honest with the people that you're going to see when you're asking for a therapist and finding that good match. If you're someone that you need someone that's gonna kind of almost be like that sports coach who they're yelling at you because they see the potential and the best in you, if that's what you're looking for, fine. But if you know that you're someone that you want people to talk to you with dignity and respect, which I hope we all do, I hope when you are meeting with a therapist that they're approaching it in that way. So yeah, that'll take care of today's who said that. Really want to get us into the main topic for today. If you're a millennial like me, at the end of the year on BET, they would always do the Notarized, where they recap the top 100 videos of the year, and then it would lead into 106 and Party, which is the countdown from New Year's Eve to New Year's. This is the last video of 2025, and the 106 and Park spirit has really been heavy on me. I mean, I'm a millennial. Can you really blame me? But I thought we would do a similar video, and today with kind of counting down moments that really made an impression on me over the course of this year. And so we're just gonna do 3. It's not even gonna be top 10, just 3 quick moments that had a big impression on me this year. So if we kick things off with number 3, why don't we start with this clip to introduce the topic.
Beautiful. Sort of a lot of pressure to have people so invested in this.
For sure. I think there's like this term being thrown around. Parasocial. Do you know what that means?
I literally just learned about that
I'll
word.
Yeah, parasocial, like people feel like they know you
Yeah.
because they see you or hear you.
And they feel like they should have like strong opinions about our relationships.
The number 3 thing that I feel like had a big impact on me this year would have to be parasocial relationships. So you've heard Nick and Olandria from Love Island kind of talking about it on the Modern Love or the New York Times podcast, but I want to introduce this topic and read the definition to you guys directly. So parasocial relationships refer to one-sided relationships in which a person develops a strong sense of connection, intimacy, or familiarity with someone they don't know, most often celebrities or media personalities. These relationships exist only in the mind of the individual who experiences a bond despite the lack of reciprocity. So, again, I have grown particularly attached in my relationship with someone who doesn't even know I exist, in a way that I feel like I know them personally and can comment on their lives and what's happening. So, I know this has become a really popular term in the context of some of like these dating shows, like Love is Blind, Love Island. We hear about it a lot more. But this is actually a term that was coined by psychologists in the 1950s, when they started to recognize, like once more people started getting TVs and those types of things, that this was happening. Does it necessarily have to be something that's unhealthy? Not necessarily. I think there's a benefit in feeling like you can relate to someone, especially for those who may feel like they don't have proper representation. This can actually be helpful to feel like, oh, I'm learning more about someone who may be similar to me in some ways. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an unhealthy thing. Now, I think more often than not, in more recent times, we're seeing it develop into something that is more unhealthy. So if we're thinking about people who are sending death threats to people who've gone on reality TV shows, like Love Island, when they came out of the villa and they talked about their families were receiving death threats. We think about when they were talking about CPS being called on someone who was on the show allegedly, allegedly ICE being called for someone who was on Love Island. Like, that's when I think the parasocial things have gone too far, because we don't know the intimate details of what's happening with these people. A question I think sometimes people have trouble understanding: when someone's a fan, you are really appreciative of the person within their craft. So if I think that LeBron is a great basketball player, that's me being a fan. When I start to say, oh, I know LeBron be blah, 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 blah with Savannah and Bronny, now I'm getting parasocial because I don't know these people personally. They don't know I exist. It has gone from me being a fan of his on the court to now I'm invested in his kind of off-screen life, so to speak, and commenting as if I know. Thinking about a lot of times like stand-ums like the Barbs, the Beehive, right, where they are engaged in this back and forth, almost pretending to speak on behalf of the artist that they're a fan of. That sometimes can also go too far and turn into that kind of unhealthy parasocial relationship. I do like, though, that more and more you're starting to see those who are public figures kind of speak up and say, hey, there's a line, and if you cross this line there will be consequences. So Kaylani, I'm going to put her post on the screen where she made it very clear, hey, this year or this coming year, 2026, there will be consequences for those who feel like they can speak, right? Sending out subpoenas all 2026. And I think it's reasonable because there has to be a line somewhere. If you watched Olandria on one of her TikTok lives earlier this month, and she said, I hope y'all got money because I do. Sue Landria. Again, I think getting to a place of not allowing people to just be able to almost speak on your behalf or comment and spread things that affect your personal life, there has to be a boundary. So I'm going to ask that in 2026, it's okay that we have people that we really ride for, that we root for, that we want to see doing well, that we love their products that they're putting out. But be careful that it's not blossoming into an unhealthy parasocial relationships. So that would be moment number 3 for me of 2025 that left an impression. If we move on to number 2, I want to talk about the public discussions that have been held on Black mental health this year, especially in regards to things that are less talked about. So if we think about like eating disorders, if we think about self-directed violence, if we think about Black people who have talked about unaliving more publicly this year, I have been so grateful for the conversations that this has started to open the door on. So if we think about Keith Lee talking about having an eating disorder when he sat down with Kev on stage, let's take a look at the clip to refresh our memory.
When it comes to the eating disorder aspect, I didn't really get a grip on it until everything on social media started. Like, that's why I say thank you so much to the people on the platforms, because they don't realize how much they brought me out of a very dark, deep place.
Yeah.
You don't realize it when you in it.
For sure.
You're like, bro, I'm just eating. Like,
yeah.
this is what I do. But like, to take a step back and realize like, oh no, I can eat. Bro, my first time enjoying Thanksgiving was November of 2022. In my entire life as an adult. My entire life from 5th grade to, because that's when I started wrestling. 5th grade, or I started wrestling in 6th grade. So 6th grade to 2022, I've never enjoyed a Thanksgiving where I can actually sit and eat, because that's the wrestling season. The wrestling season is during holidays.
It's a winter sport.
So that was the first time I was able to eat Thanksgiving and not want to be like, I got to go run right after this, or I got to go throw up, or I got to go get something where I can't eat for the next couple days. I just got to stuff myself and I eat for the next 3 or 4 days. That was the very first time.
I don't necessarily know that within Black culture, eating disorders are things that like get talked about often. A lot of times when you think of like anorexia, binging, purging, a lot of times I think people have this image of thin white girls or people on My 600-Pound Life. Like, you have those images in your mind, but we don't necessarily think about like your average Black male or female, and especially thinking about in the context of wrestling. So that's where he felt like it really started, right? Trying to quickly make weight. But him saying that 2022 was the first Thanksgiving he could really enjoy the meal without thinking about going to make himself vomit or immediately exercising. Kudos to him for being willing to share that with us so that we can start to talk about how common that actually is, because it's not just a teenage white situation that's happening. Also on Den of Kings with Dr. J. Barnett, who now speaks so openly about mental health, he mentioned about self-directed violence and unaliving in the episode that he was on Den of Kings. So let's take a look at that.
My parents divorced and I started cutting at 13. Yeah. And every time something would happen, I was always cut. Yeah. And it was funny because well, not funny, but my sister saying, I always wondered what was the marks on your arms when we would come see you in college, because to understand self-harm is that I was allowing myself to cause physical pain to numb the pain that I was dealing with on the inside. Yeah. And then my second suicide attempt was a drug overdose. That was several years later, which after surviving miraculously, which is how I got into going to therapy, because I stood at the altar a bunch of Sundays, Kurt, and I got prayer, and sometimes deliverance works in an instant, but true healing takes place through the journey of understanding why was I cutting. Yeah. What was the pain connected to?
So here we have someone who was a college athlete being very open about when things were happening, he was still cutting, which again, I feel like a lot of times to hear males openly talk about cutting, you don't hear. To hear a Black male talking about that, I don't feel like I can remember any other experience or any other person who shared about that, and not in a like, we're trying to glorify this, we want this to become something that kids are doing, not from that standpoint, but to be like, hey, the pain emotionally was so unbearable for me that I needed a physical way to let this out, right? We think about people who may be self-medicating with drugs or alcohol, people who may be sleeping with a lot of people, trying to numb the pain, or retail therapy where we're shopping and spending. If you think about Cranes in the Sky from Solange, I love that song. Number one, it's a banger, but also just the message of like trying to sex it away, trying to sleep it away, trying to drink it away. It's not going to do it. And in a similar way, cutting for a lot of people, or self-directed violence, as it's called, a lot of times we don't think about, for Black people, that being something that we may resort to in moments where we're really in pain. So I appreciate him openly sharing about that. Thinking about serious mental illness, right? Those who may be diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, some of the things that I feel like still have these heavy stigmas attached to it, right? Like, okay, you got a little ADHD, a little depression, a little anxiety. Like, sure, we're starting to have those conversations more and more. But when we think about some of the more serious mental illnesses, I feel like the stigma is really there. So I really appreciate Kaylani opening up about her diagnosis, and Gucci Mane. So let's take a look at when Gucci Mane was on the Breakfast Club, and one of the things he talked about with getting his diagnosis.
Like, this is the time.
I think when I had an episode in like 2019 or 2020,
COVID.
around COVID, and that was just like after that I was like, man, I gotta really just hold myself accountable and take care of my health. I don't never want to have an episode again. I'm like, I'm gonna see a therapist. If I had to take medicine, I kind of like threw the towel in, like, you know, what I need to do to get better. I just didn't never want to have that happen again. And then my wife was pregnant with my little boy, and I'm like, I don't never want this. I don't want to raise a family and then mental health gone. What if I have an episode I can't come back from? You know what I'm saying? So I just like starting to do the work and like start seeking the help.
Now, when this clip came out, I feel like a lot of the discourse was around Keisha Kayor talking about like taking his phone from him and all those other things. However, I want to again applaud him being open and willing enough to write a book about it and then go on the press tour and sharing about it openly in the interviews with the warning signs that they were seeing and saying, okay, I really got to put the work in. I need to go to therapy. I need to take the medication if that's what's going to help me really be able to function as close to, you know, kind of normal or my baseline as I can. So I really appreciate some of the conversations this year that we have had around Black people and mental health, because what we don't want is for someone to then be the headline that, you know, Kyron Lacey, the Marshawn Neilands, that they're no longer here and we have this RIP, check on your strong friends. When they were alive, we didn't really talk about ways that they could be suffering and trying to help them and encouraging that help and not looking down on someone or seeing it as a weakness. So I really appreciate those discussions this year. Now, if we get to our number one moment, what's kind of my takeaway from me this year, the political climate and mental health. Let me just say, one of the fastest ways to make my skin crawl is to say, oh, I'm not political, or I don't really get into politics, especially if it's a person of color. Let me be clear, your entire existence is political, from where you can afford to live or where you're even allowed to apply for a home, the quality of the education you're getting, your access to health care, the cost of your groceries, and if there are grocery stores in your area, or if you're in a food desert, your reproductive rights, if something should happen to you. All of the decisions that a lot of times we take for granted, they're inherently political, because there is someone with the authority to make decisions about it that will directly impact you. I feel like 2025, there have been so many things that have impacted people of color negatively, and it has taken a toll on people's mental health, right? Where people are like, bro, I just constantly feel exhausted. I constantly feel tired. I feel like defeated, right? Just based on the headlines. Although these weren't individually created things, and let's pull over right there. When we think about kind of the exhaustion from politics, that's not an individualized solution, right? We can't CBT that away. I can't say, well, let me change the way I'm thinking about it so it'll impact my feelings and my behaviors. It's not going to be resolved with a CBT strategy. So how we cope with this is going to be really important to stay in community with others, right? That balance of information and separation, right? Where I'm educated and I know what's going on, but I'm not so overwhelmed and in the weeds of every post and every news release, right? I have to have a healthy separation between being informed and educated and taking some time to step away from it and reshift my focus, right? The one individual approach I would take away from this is self-care, right? Still making sure I'm meeting my basics, right? My hygiene, my sleep, being able to eat a nutritious meal. Those are the things that are going to go a long way. But again, it's not the full solution to if we're feeling, just kind of defeated and overwhelmed with the political climate. So I want to pop in one of my favorite videos from this year that talked about politics from Mamala.
You know what? I can't even really cap anymore. It's a really dark time for America. Do you want to talk about it?
I mean, look, they break rules, they break the laws, they break the government, and when Outbreak MAGA still applauds. They like letting crooks and convicts run their neighborhoods. They like voting felons and claiming they're misunderstood. And here's the thing, these red states, they feel good, and their education's at an all-time low. And we're done trying to converse. They won't comprehend till Elon has all they own. Then it's whoopsie, I made a oopsie. Now it's affecting us, wow, he really tricked me. Now I'm not bitter, but don't push me. Don't really wanna have to show you what Oakland taught me.
I just think that was such a good summary of kind of what was happening at the start of the year when Project 2025 was really being kind of unleashed, so to speak, and all of the headlines were taking place, and not from a like I told you so type of standpoint, but for us to find a way to creatively express what was happening, what we were feeling, and to get the word out so that people would be informed. So if going into 2026 you're concerned about the impact of politics on your mental health, reasonable, I get it. I'm going to encourage us to again find that healthy balance between staying educated, informed, being activists, whether it's you participating in the elections that are happening in your city, states, counties, if it is attending school board meetings, voting on things that are being passed in your area, finding that balance between the activism and the education and then being informed, and again finding time to still take care of yourself and shift your focus onto things that bring you joy. So those were my top 3 kind of impressions from 2025 as it relates to mental health. We're going to get right on into the final segment for the week, which is the soundtrack. When I was thinking about what sums up 2025, I had to go to my girl Janae Aiko's Magic Hour. When she's in the song saying it ain't perfect but everything's beautiful here, this sense of gratitude of okay, yeah, there probably were parts of the year that I was in shambles. There were probably moments where I was like, hey, we got a GTFO this year, wrap it up. Like, I'm sure there were several of those moments, and the duality and still being grateful and recognizing some of the moments of, number one, I'm still on this side of the ground. Number two, the things that are still working and functioning properly. Just finding that gratitude. So I'm going to take us out with Janae, Magic Hour. Go listen to it if you're not familiar with the song. And thank you so much for tuning in. So coming up in 2026, I think the Couch and the Culture is going to have a few updates, few upgrades, hopefully. I've been working. Can I just say that it's been exactly 2 months from the day that I created the accounts for all of this stuff, said let's just kind of step out on faith and get it up and running. And here we are 2 months later into things, and we're on Apple and Spotify podcasts. We've got the YouTube up and running, the TikTok, Threads, Instagram, trying to get myself more out there. There's a couple of conferences I'm going to be attending in this coming year. But I'm just really hopeful that 2026 that I start to check off some of the things that I've been too scared to do and step out on fear. So I want to encourage you, if you're watching, leave fear behind. Really go after the things that you're passionate about, that you're interested in. Put yourself out there, take chances, still find gratitude and stillness in the small wins. And I hope everyone has a happy new year, and that 2026 brings you all of the desires of your heart. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, the final episode of the year, and I hope you guys will join me back next year. Bye bye, clients.